Hello, beautiful souls, and thank you so much for dropping by this video. A warm welcome to anyone who's new to this channel. A warm welcome back to any subscribers or regular viewers. So this channel is dedicated to helping people understand the difference between actual non-duality, Advaita Vedanta, and Neo-Advaita, or false modernized non-duality. So, I was reading today from Ramakrishna, a Hindu saint who a guru, truly a guru in the true sense of the word, who I adore. And here is something he said that really connects to this whole dialogue about why Neo-Advaita will not work. But cannot one see God as formless reality, meaning Brahman, the way Neo-Advaita. So in Hinduism, there's this, in Sanatana Dharma, there's this ongoing dialogue of, is God formless, does not have a form, or does God have a form, such as the deities you'll see in a Hindu temple? It's like this ongoing debate that's been going on for thousands of years. And so the question is, is it possible to experience? Neo-Advaita, of course, talks about the formless. And so someone posed to Ramakrishna like, well, what about the formless? And here's what he had to say. But can one not see God as a formless reality? Of course one can, but not if one has the slightest trace of worldliness. The rishis, like the great saints, sages of olden times, renounced everything and then contemplated Satchidananda, being consciousness bliss, the indivisible Brahman. So Satchidananda is a description of Brahman, the formless truth. So what we're after is truth. And in Hindu philosophy, the question is, does truth have a form or not have a form? Again, Neo-Advaita says, no, it has no form. Its only form is, in fact, you might hear in a Neo-Advaita satsang, Sat Chit Ananda, eternal, blissful consciousness. Like, that's it. That's the supreme truth, according to Neo-Advaita. Now, Hindu Dharma as a whole, there's a little bit of debate. Like, is that the supreme, or is the supreme with a form the supreme, or are they both true? Ramakrishna says they're both true, but that's a topic for another time. But the important thing he says here is to realize the formless, which is the goal of Advaita Vedanta and the goal of Neo-Advaita, although only one of them will work. Only actual non-duality will work. But to realize the formless, Ramakrishna says, of course one can, but not if one has the slightest taint of worldliness. The traditional non-dual Advaita path has very strict requirements. And here Ramakrishna kind of sums them up. Like, if you have any attachment to the world, it's not going to work. Now, Ramana Maharshi said it in a very similar way. He said, self-inquiry will only work if you have a one-pointedness of mind. Now, one-pointedness of mind means you can sustain one thought for hours, i.e., you can quiet the monkey mind. The monkey mind isn't a problem for you. Ramana also said that's only possible for someone who has a primarily peaceful, sattvic mind, an unattached, a mind that doesn't have desire. So right there and then, what Ramakrishna said, any taint of worldliness, and what Ramana Maharshi said, one-pointedness of mind and a primarily peaceful mind, that eliminates like 99.999% of the population. And that's going to eliminate most of the people who are going to Neo-Advaita satsangs. But Neo-Advaita teachers don't teach this because they don't know this, because They're not actually realized, and they may have some level of spiritual awakening, but they don't have any spiritual education. And they actually teach, oh, you don't need any education. But it's actually not true. You need to learn from an actual guru who actually knows what they're doing and who can actually lead people to the goal. Now, what Ramakrishna said and Ramana Maharshi are just summaries of what Adi Shankara said, the founder of the school of non-duality. He said there are 4 requirements to achieve enlightenment on the non-dual path. Discrimination, detachment, the burning desire for liberation, and the 6 qualities. So he kind of cheats. He's like discrimination, detachment, desire for liberation, and then 6 more things. So there's actually 9 things. And most people go to a Neo-Advaita satsang don't have any of them. Maybe they have a desire for liberation. Discrimination means you have absolute clarity that God alone is eternal and everything else is in a constant state of flux and can offer no happiness. Like that can't just be a belief, it has to be clear. Detachment, no interest in worldly things. The burning desire for liberation. Liberation is the most important thing. And then the 6 essentials. Peacefulness, that's the sattvic mind that Ramana taught about. Self-control, not being a slave to the senses, not really caring about sex, food, not really craving any particular sensations. Renunciation. Let me backtrack. So self-control is when those desires arise, not giving into them. Renunciation is having renounced those things. Not caring about food or money or relationships. Endurance or fortitude, like rock solid commitment, the capacity to not be shaken no matter what happens outside of you, to stay committed to this path and to not lose your peace. Faith or conviction, faith in the non-dual path. The thing is, most Neo-Advaita students haven't even been taught the non-dual path. They've been taught little pieces of it. And profound, concentrated, formless meditation. That's the oneness. That's the one-pointedness of mind I was talking about. So, according to Adi Shankara, according to Ramana Maharshi, according to Ramakrishna, you have to really be a saint. You have to be like deeply renounced, deeply detached, deeply stable before practicing self-inquiry. But according to Neo-Advaita teachers, everyone can practice self-inquiry. So I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There's 2 teachings here, and the teachings are completely opposite. They use some of the same language, which makes it complex and complicated. But when it comes down to the nuts and bolts, the actual instructions, completely different teachings. It comes down to qualifications. Neo-Advaita says everyone's qualified for self-inquiry. Advaita Vedanta, Ramana Maharshi, Adi Shankara, Paramahansa, Ramakrishna, and many other great non-dual saints say that self-inquiry is the final stage of the non-dual path. And without those prerequisites, you will fail. I speak from personal experience. I pursued self-inquiry and not knowing it, Neo-Advaita, for almost 20 years, and it just spun me in circles. And I watched pretty much everyone else in all these different satsangs just spin in circles. So I began to study traditional non-duality and realized it wasn't for me. So I've taken up bhakti, the path of loving devotion towards the divine, which every great saint and sage advocates. Ramana Maharshi advocated it. Ramakrishna advocated, Adi Shankara advocated. These three saints who teach the non-dual path, they also advocate bhakti, worship, singing to God, devotional practices. Neo-Advaita, they poo-poo bhakti. Most of them. Every now and then you'll have a Neo-Advaita teacher who kind of like tolerates it. Like, yeah, it's okay. Whereas Ramana Maharshi said bhakti will lead to jnana, realization. Ramakrishna said loving God, it's a beautiful quote. I can't remember the exact quote. Something along the effects of everything can be achieved through loving God. Whereas Neo-Advaita is like, oh, sure, a little bhakti's okay, but don't focus on it too much. The beautiful thing is bhakti leads to all the qualifications that Adi Shankara talked about. As you become more attached to God, then you become less attached to the world. So, let's see if I have anything else I want to share. I'm also open to any comments or questions from my live viewers. Oh, last but not least, the Bhagavad Gita, like the fundamental text of non-duality, says that approaching God through the formless aspect is much harder. But Neo-Advaita teach, and here Ramakrishna and Ramana Maharshi and Adi Shankara give the actual requirements to do that. Most people need to, according to all these saints, most people need to approach God with a form. That's what the various deities are about. And there's different viewpoints about, are the deities real? Are they symbolic? I'm not going to get into that here. Each person can discern that for can have their own opinion, their own exploration. I have my view, but that's just my view. But what is important is all these great saints and sages say that unless you're properly prepared, you cannot approach God as formless. What do Neo-Advaita teachers teach? Hey, everyone, approach God, approach the supreme truth, approach the supreme reality as formless. In direct contradiction to all these other teachers. And here's another interesting difference between the Neo-Advaita teachers and these classical teachers. These classical teachers were renunciates. They didn't have possessions. They didn't want things. Neo-Advaita teachers get up on a stage and make a lot of money. Not all of them, many. I can't even say many. A good number get up on the stage and make a lot of money. Or they get up on the stage, they give a talk, and then they go live a worldly life, whether they make money or not. They still want things. That's what distinguishes a saint from an ordinary person. The saint is attached to God, to the supreme truth, and ordinary people are attached to things. And I'm in that category as well. I'm still attached to stuff. So you have these people, many of whom are making, a good number of whom are making money, involved in sex scandals, involved in power scandals, who still are attached to the world, teaching a message that's different from those who have found actual freedom, who aren't attached to the world. That's why I've said you can't follow Neo-Advaita and Advaita Vedanta. They're contradictory. You can't follow Ramana Maharshi and some Neo-Advaita YouTube guru. They just teach different things. So that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for your time, energy, and attention. I've given on my website, I have a course I've created that gives an overview of this topic. And I wish everyone a Neo-Advaita free day. Take care, beautifuls.